Good morning, everybody. It's the 13th of May. Look at this side over here. These cats just finished eating. Oh, that bird. Looks like I was looking for some stuff that was left over. I don't know if these guys are going to eat anything that I'm going to have here. Brought some food. Looks like somebody gave some bread. They didn't want that. You guys are spoiled. Oh. Some food. Come on. But you guys just had some food. Here's some more. Just a little bit. Look at that, some of the good stuff. Gotta save this for some other kitties too. Let's see if you guys will even eat this. Maybe you don't even show up. Looks like you got an eye problem, huh? Got in a fight? Oh, it's probably got a sickness. You look pretty healthy. Here's some food. Let's walk over here, see if they even go over there. Maybe they'll experiment or just check it out and still not eat anything. They're not even interested. Well, they were just eating. Somebody had put, oh, here it goes. Oh, let's check this out, see if there's anything real good. Oh, there you go. Some actually very good cat food, so normally all cats eat that one. Well, it's not very much. They're well fed. So, let's get on with this news here. This bird's gonna go and eat the rest if the other cats don't eat it. Real pesky birds. So let's go up here. Very, always interesting news. Always stuff coming out. But there's some good news. If you guys haven't heard, I guess this PKK has decided to disband. It's the PKK. I guess that is this group of, what is it, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, and they've decided they're going to stop their military operations against Turkey, whatever. So at least there's something positive going on there. And it looks like this Donald Trump's ending of the skirmishes between Pakistan and India did not yet really work. It's not yet a certain thing. I guess it came too fast. Been hostilities between the two for quite a long time, decades, and you can't just end it overnight. So that's not so easy. But let's go on to this other stuff. There's so much news. I can't sit here and cover all of this. I'd have to have like a two-hour broadcast or whatever here. Okay. So UK and EU are to forge a military alliance. Gee, who would have thought of that? Actually, I was announcing that already, but I wasn't saying much about this alliance between them. I was saying that an EU army, and of course, in my opinion, that always included the UK anyway. So I always consider the UK as part of the EU. Look, these are cars obviously been sitting here for a long time. This is a storage car. It looks like somebody's storage car. What about this one? See the flat tires? Been there a while. Yeah, you never know. Maybe they're going to get in trouble at some point in time by the government. I don't know. I think they don't enforce a lot of things over here in Belarus. Like, let me think. What are some? Oh, like drinking in public. There's a lot of people, and you see them having, a bottle of beer and all that all around, and it's not supposed to be allowed, but I guess they do it. And obviously you have street cafes. People have a beer or whatever in front of them. I don't know, a lot of things. And then selling things like people, just private people without renting space. I don't think you can even rent space, but they're selling things in the metro, and then they just come. The police are coming, and people pack their stuff up really fast and go. I don't think anybody ever gets in any trouble. They just go, and then it comes again. Look at this pretty kitty. I have some food, but you don't look like you're gonna want to stick around or let me feed you. If I take a few steps, are you gonna run? Yeah. It doesn't look like a stray, really. Actually, we have a cat just like you. As a matter of fact, our cat's a mix. We have a tiger cat that's like this one, and then we have a cat that has a big fluffy tail like that one. So, no, it doesn't look like it. I don't know. And since I'm already making this video and not really prepared, I don't know. It's too difficult to get their trust. Right now the cat is gonna just walking around anyway. Looks like we might have a nice day here in Minsk. Temperature is not quite so cold as it has been the past few days. So let's keep going here. You guys want to come to this site to watch the news here. Anyway, it's inevitable. So what's going to happen? You see what's going on with Ursula von der Leyen. She is screaming to expedite Ukraine into the EU. She's screaming, we have to do it as fast as possible. As fast as possible. And it's kind of strange. It says, it's the same thing as say, we really want this war. We want this war. We want to escalate this war. We really want to escalate this war. And that's what it's all about. And you would think, well, why would they want to escalate this war? It's a huge bunch of money just dumped into nothing. Well, you would think it would be nothing. What do they think they're going to get out of it? Oh, of course, they think it's just like how many times in the past have these authoritative, and which they really are. These are authoritative regimes. The EU is an authoritative regime. Nobody elected Ursula von der Leyen or Kaja Kallas, except just a bunch of other authoritative people that want to get some sort of a mission done, which that mission is obviously, and a lot of people even say this, is to defeat Russia. The entire purpose of the whole thing is to defeat Russia. It's, could keep things kind of going along, but the ultimate goal is to defeat Russia. And I don't know, a lot of people say the United States is in on this, and some people say, oh yeah, it's like fully approved by the United States. And of course, the whole goal is to defeat Russia and take over all the resources, whatever they can, and enslave the people, basically, as they do in a lot of other countries. Like I said, that book, Hidden Agendas, by Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, now I even forgot his name, from Australia. Anyway, Hidden Agendas, you can look it up and find out what the guy's name is. I'm not sure if I think he died not very long ago. I'm not positive, but it shows how the United States and other countries, they go in and they exploit countries. They exploit them financially. They have their people working for pennies in the day, like children working for 30 cents a day, like in Haiti, making baseballs for sporting goods stores in America. And, Haiti is nothing but a big slave colony anyway for the West. It always has been. It was French and the Americans and all that. And just like this earthquake, the whole thing about the earthquake was, as you saw, Israel was there. And a lot of these people that went into the Israeli tent, after that earthquake, what year was that? Not that long ago. They went into the Israeli tent and they just waited, and they never came out. And there was a little back door, so it was a big tent. And as soon as this started being announced, Israel pulled out of there immediately. And it turns out that they were taking organs from children, and for their illegal organs trades. Am I allowed to say this stuff on YouTube? I guess I don't have to wonder why a lot of crazy stuff is done to my channel. Like I just wrote on my video yesterday, it essentially took 24 hours to put that video up on YouTube. They went through the uploading process, then it went to the processing process, which comes after uploading, and that normally just goes a couple minutes. And mine, it stopped at 99%. And I'm sitting there doing all kinds of things, pressing this button, doing all this stuff, trying to get that 1%. And then, of course, then it would be ready to watch the video. But it didn't happen. And I was thinking, well, I'll just wait it out. Once in a while, I just have to, when they freeze things on me, like the upload even, like where it's uploading and it's like gets to 18% and it stops there for a long, long period of time. One time it started up again on its own, which was something. And I was thinking this might happen as well, but like 4 hours, I was in town doing stuff, and it never started up again. So 4 hours later, I had to restart it over again. It was before 5 o'clock in the afternoon or evening. And then it wasn't uploaded until, completed until 5:15 the next morning. So it took over 12 hours. It was 12 hours and 15 minutes for them to upload that video throughout the night. So I went to bed and woke up in the next morning, and that's what it was all about. So fun stuff. So I guess it's because they like the information that I put out on my videos. And it's not a big channel, obviously. It's not like getting a lot of people. Of course, that's why they don't send it out. They don't like the information. And a lot of the information I'm putting out, it's already verified in a lot of other channels from a lot of other people that are already big. I guess maybe they got in before the real battle against Russia had started, so they were already on their way. And you know, there's a lot of tips and tricks to get more views, and I think a lot of these views are even fake. To be honest with you, somebody contacted me and I thought, oh well, this person sounds nice, so I started actually had a rapport with them, and some gal in South Korea and all that, and was supposed to be coming to Minsk for a couple weeks, and then it turns out it was some kind of a big scam, and it's on I don't even want to mention the sites. Oh, look at that MG. I didn't even know. Looks like it's not that really old. British car. Betcha that's really expensive. A convertible MG. Anyway, yeah, this person, apparently they are into some sort of sales, and apparently she's quite wealthy, and so she can travel around a lot and get really expensive things. You never know. It might be fake stuff. You never know. I don't know. I remember all these Nigerians doing this fake stuff, that their father was some big leader and he has so much money in a bank account, and all you have to do is give them your bank account number and they'll put the money there and you can split it or something like that. I don't know what those things are all about. It's some kind of variation of that. But this may be, I don't know. Apparently, maybe this girl is not from South Korea. Maybe she's from China. Maybe there's some Chinese scammers. Maybe she's not even a girl. Maybe it's some guy somewhere. Maybe he's in Ukraine. You can almost bet, because a lot of scams are coming from Ukraine now. Lots and lots of scams about stealing money, and they can fake a lot of stuff. And yeah, this girl from supposedly from South Korea, she sent some pictures even, and then she said, oh, let's talk on video. And some girl called on video. I don't know if it was Telegram or what channel she called on, and it was an Asian. It didn't really look 100% like the one in the photos, but I don't know. Maybe lighting was bad. I have no idea. I wasn't paying so much attention, but it turns out that I don't know, it's probably some kind of a scam, and wanted me to get involved. Probably wanted me at some point in time to give my bank account number. So I'm just saying this to you guys so you kind of be aware yourself that maybe these scams are going out. And, you know, I'd appreciate it if you guys know of some, and just mention a little bit about that if in the comments, if you know of some of these like Asian peoples or whatever. And like, again, I don't have anything against Asian countries or people or nothing like that. Most of them I met are very nice people, but you know, there's criminals in every ethnic group, criminals in all religions, or say they're in the religions or not. Anyway, you never know. So, but I just stopped responding completely, because it was something about some sort of a thing, and I'll even say it was through TikToks, and she said it's like I don't know if it's TikTok market or TikTok something or other, and selling things, and it turns out it's like a scam sort of a deal, scamming supposedly, she's saying, other people, but she didn't come out and say it. It's like to make it look like certain products or companies are getting more sales, so that those companies get some sort of a preference on TikTok, and then other people, well, you know, since it said best sellers or whatever, that people will go to those and maybe order those items, even though it's not even true. So maybe they do that on Amazon as well. I don't know. And there's a lot of Asian stuff on Amazon, and maybe that stuff, a lot of it is fake. They're not getting all those sales that they say they're getting, and it's, I don't know. Just saying. You guys might have some evidence about that. I don't get anything from Amazon anymore. So it's sort of like GoPro. That kind of gets me about GoPro. You know, you get GoPros, and probably half of them don't even work right. There's lots and lots of bugs, and people say that even on YouTube videos. But you know, it's like sales of this and that, and I had a GoPro, and then later on I found out about all these bugs, and it turns out that mine had like 3 bugs. As a matter of fact, I still kind of owned it. I had it in Germany because I was thinking I could get it repaired there, and then I think the people lost it or something like that. They even offered to reimburse me because they had it in their care and they lost it. But that's kind of, I haven't really done anything about that. I can't even get stuff from Germany over here. So if they get some other camera that actually does work, like a DJI, it's not like they can send it to me. But anyway, gosh, I got to get back on the news. I get too sidetracked on this stuff. Okay, so talk a little bit about these people on that train. Macron, Starmer, and I guess Tusk was there. I don't know. Was it? Yeah, Tusk. It wasn't Duda, but it was Tusk there, and Merz, and a lot of people, like such as Maduro, some leaders of other countries, as well as very, very high officials of other companies, are saying that it was a coke thing there. And then they have these other videos to make this thing by Macron that it supposedly, they said nose rag. It looked sort of like a napkin, but it was folded and all that. And there's just something wrong about that too, because why was Macron so, why did he go to such lengths to hide this? And Merz, to hide that little spoon there, that they're trying to say that it was a stir spoon. They have a glass of maybe water, maybe it's vodka, maybe it's Russian vodka, I don't know. But they had these glasses there, and and this little stir spoon was really tiny. I mean, I don't buy into that it was any kind of a stir spoon. It looked metallic, and they have these little plastic stir spoons for, I don't even know what those are necessarily for. But then I guess, you have this little spoon. I don't know if this is, I'm not a drug addict, so I don't know. But I was thinking, it was kind of occurring to me that these little spoons, is that for acid? And they heat it up normally, and you take some kind of acid or get on some kind of a trip. But of course, I doubt that they would do this. Everybody watching me. I doubt that they would do that because you look like you're in some other world with Timothy Leary or whatever, But it apparently, I don't know. Is it cocaine too? So you get a perfect dose of cocaine within that little spoon, and I don't really know. So anyway. But everybody is saying that these people are really into that. There's a lot of information, of course, that proves a lot of this, and a lot of these high people are. Lots and lots of them. Like I was telling you guys yesterday about parties and in Hollywood, and you get like athletes, well-known athletes, and maybe movie stars and all that. And I've heard of a lot of these parties. I heard on a number of times that a lot of time you go to these parties and like sitting on some coffee table or something somewhere, they have an assortment of like marijuana and cocaine bags and all that. So you go to the party and they have, I guess, party favors. I guess that's what it is. They have all this stuff sitting there, and I guess it's just a normal thing for celebrities to be into drugs. And it might shock some of you. And as you heard, you know that Mel Gibson even admits he had a drinking problem, and he doesn't. I don't see any videos or anything him coming out and saying anything specific. But he said that there's just real wacko stuff in Hollywood. So and that's just Hollywood. So I guess he knows about a lot of all of this stuff. I don't know how much he partakes in it. I mean, it's in alcohol. I don't know. And Robert Downey Jr., he had a drug problem. He admitted it, and apparently he's cured. And Johnny Depp and lots of other people. But I mean, blah 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 blah. Okay. Anyway, what else was that saying? Oh, some people say, there's another thing I wrote here on the side here. But there's like some sort of talk why Reuters came out and said, oh, the video is real, but the interpretation is wrong. But maybe the video is not really real. They can do deep fakes and make things look different than what they really were. Lots of things they can do it in it, and it looks really convincing. I don't know if that's even deep fakes or AI and all that sort of thing, but maybe it was Reuters that put this video out, and they did this stuff on purpose because this has been done many, many times. Monsanto has been doing this and all that. And they even have people that fake certain things, and then it comes out and trying to make the real world people look like they're conspiracy theorists and none of this stuff is true, so that nobody believes in this. But there's a very good chance that a lot of that that stuff to make that look like a napkin, that was actually doctored, and it really was a bag, apparently. People are even saying that. As anything is possible nowadays. But these people are definitely into that sort of thing. Uh-oh. Well, she's gonna park here. Okay, thought she's gonna get me. Oh gosh. I got a traffic jam here. Nobody around anywhere on the whole entire street except right in front of me when I went across. Okay. Okay, what else? Oh, I was on, and I interrupted myself. I was talking about this European army. I'll tell you what the whole deal I think is about. I think it's very, very obvious. It doesn't take a genius to figure this one out. So what they're going to try to do, and you know, Vladimir Putin is not against Ukraine going into the European Union. But, you know, technically speaking, anybody whose brain has a couple cells working, they could realize, just like Viktor Orban said right away, he said that Ukraine will bankrupt the European Union, and it will. They're probably one of the main reasons why the USSR got bankrupt, because Ukraine, and I talk about this big sucking sound, about this money, and Ukraine is a big money vacuum, and money, and however much they get, it's never enough. You got to keep that money flowing, money, and that's what Ukraine is all about. And you know, do you think Ursula von der Leyen cares? Do you think any of these people do? It's not their money; it's the taxpayers' money. Don't worry, our people can pay for that. It's just like the United States. And you see, Elon Musk, he seems to be a little bit more compassionate about this and kind of wants to stop it. But a lot of people are also saying that all of this so-called efforts and things from Donald Trump, the deficit is still going up, you know, because whatever money they are saving, they're throwing it in other places. As you know, they spent well over $1 billion to bomb Yemen, and then he just walked away from it. I don't know, in a sense, declared victory and walked away, as it's normally the case in America when you can't defeat somebody. And, you know, he didn't defeat the Yemenis. But anyway, let's keep going. But old Ursula von der Leyen, the whole idea is, get this, the whole idea, I guess I just cut to the chase here, is sure they're going to get Ukraine, they want it expedited in there. They're trying to find out ways to sidetrack, say, Slovakia or Hungary, and, you know, and say, you know, what they're they can't, what is it, veto it, and stick them in there anyway. And then what they're going to do is create a European military. You know, they say, NATO's obsolete, we don't need it anymore. So in a sense, you're just going to have it transferred over instead of, you know, it's just a few strokes of the pen on a piece of paperwork. And then, you know, if Donald Trump actually wants out, or does he want, you know, and obviously he's still sending weapons to Ukraine as well. So there's still going to be an alliance between the United States, Europe, and of course the UK, which I call Europe anyway. And yeah, and all of a sudden, bam, Ukraine is in NATO. It's not called NATO anymore. So they're in the European army. So, and I guess what they were doing on this train ride on the entire way there, and it was weird because they had at one point in time, Starmer said, he's not going to send troops there because Donald Trump didn't want to get involved. He said, well, we can't win unless the United States is involved. But apparently they won him over, and I was hearing that Poland didn't want to send troops there. But apparently now they're all in sending troops there. But I believe what this is all about is this ceasefire. And they thought that they got Vladimir Putin boxed into a corner and that he's going to have to go with the ceasefire. And I was saying yesterday, maybe he will go for it, but maybe not now, because it's the cat is out of the bag. And what they're trying to do is get this ceasefire and then send a whole bunch of peacekeepers in there. So they're, you know, going to be sending troops, you know, NATO troops supposedly into Ukraine. Well, that's the whole idea of this thing. So I don't know. Are we going to see Putin sign this deal? Maybe he'll sign it as a 3-day truce. I don't know. I really don't know. But, you know, supposedly in this ceasefire, they can't stop. There's nothing written in this ceasefire about building up more troops and weapons. And of course they all said they're going to send more weapons. They're going to keep those weapons flowing. And as a matter of fact, they're flowing even more now. Even the United States, they sent 124 long-range missile launchers, apparently. I don't know if they've arrived, but oh yeah, they just signed it. They signed it, an agreement to send 125 long-range missile launchers to Ukraine. Wow. And I guess that's probably a big secret too, because I never heard about that. It would be a few hundred million, not 50 million. Okay, more. Okay, let's see. Kaya Kallas. So she didn't get her 400 billion, but she had the number that they finally did settle on. You guys already know that. It's been a couple of weeks, so maybe $157.5 billion worth. And now apparently the UK is going to be able to share with some of that, because UK is, a lot of these countries are very bad off militarily. So, and of course, don't worry, the UK and even the UK probably, well, maybe not the UK. It'll be the EU taxpayers. Don't worry, the Germans will pay for it, you know, and it'll, and even the UK will be a beneficiary of it. So, okay. Professor John Mersheimer said the U.S. and Israeli policy, he said it is to keep Syria wrecked. And that was even put out. I put that out in probably a video a long time ago. Maybe it was a year ago. You had a State Department official. She came out and she said that. She said that in a meeting on camera. She said the policy of the United States is to keep Syria in ruins. They said that. That's right from the United States government. And then she said that that portion of Syria what the United States occupies is U.S. property that belongs to the U.S. And she said they have, you know, Syria has no business there. That is theirs. And of course they had, you know, like where that Al Tanf is at. It's a section of Syria. I don't know how much is it. 20% of Syria. And the U.S. says it is their property, and that's the only property that works. And the U.S. is sucking the oil out of there, making a lot of money. But they're probably still doing it. I haven't heard of anything stopping. You know. And Donald Trump was saying about removing half of the troops. And I don't really understand how they can do that with that many troops. It's probably just because they have so many terrorists in there, you know. And I guess these other terrorists from Turkey and Israel, the ones that have so-called Syria now, they don't have that part. Maybe they stay out of there, because if you go after any USA assets, something could happen to you. We knows where's your daughter does her laundry. Anyway, so what else here? Israel wants to ruin Iran the same way that it is ruined right now in Syria. The Economist believes that the death toll in Gaza is at a very, very, very minimum, in a minimum of 77,000 people, not the 60,000. At a minimum 77,000, as high as 109,000 people that have died there. And I guess I would probably more, you know, the thing is, because a lot of time when people are missing and they're buried in the rubble, they don't count them as dead. They don't say they're dead people. They just say missing. They only count the dead people that they actually have the bodies for. So 77,000. And you've seen huge, you can fly over with an airplane and it's nothing but huge as far as the eye can see of just ruins of, you know, and they say that there were more bombs dropped on Gaza than the entirety of World War II. So anyway, keep going. Then there's still a lot of these videos, and they're coming up every day, a couple of them every single day, about all these Ukrainian recruiters going around and snapping up all these people off the streets. And some, I told you guys yesterday about the one guy where they keep slamming him in the belly. They keep hitting him, you know, they act like this and bam, and they hit him in the stomach, and they have him cornered up against some dumpsters or something like that. And he's kind of, you know, flinching and all that, and he keeps keeling over because they keep punching him in the belly. Why don't they just friggin' stick the guy in the van? They have obvious total control over the guy, and just stick him in the friggin' van instead of beating the crap out of him. You know, he'll be dead anyway soon, once they send him to the meat grinder. And then there was another video, it was, I guess during the rain, there was a lot of young ladies, and they, I think it was about 6 young ladies, and there was at least 3 recruiters I saw. They had it's kind of a smaller car, and they were trying to get a brave, happy volunteer into this car, and these ladies were blocking it. And finally the recruiters had to give up, you know, because these ladies were really adamant. You know, I don't know. They didn't show the guy really, because, you know, the women were kind of all crowding around and keeping these recruiters off of this guy, and, you know, pulling them back and all that. So they gave up, I believe, and they went back in their car. These the green shirts, Zelensky's green shirts. But anyway, you know, they're trying to snap up as many as they possibly can, and I guess there's a big push right now because they really want this. It's just like right before the real special military operation back in 2022, a real push to really build everything up because they're readying themselves for a big attack against Russia apparently again. I don't know, or maybe is this big push just to maintain what they have going right now? Like Sersky said, he needs 30,000 new recruits every single month, you know, because of so many dying in the meat grinder. They need to keep up getting that cannon fodder, keep feeding the meat grinder. There's a popular show, political show in Russia, and I saw this yesterday. No. This was yesterday afternoon, and there's the hosts and the guests were laughing about basically like Trump said. He said, oh, he's in support of Vladimir Putin's peace plan, blah, blah, blah. And of course he threw a little hit in there towards the end and saying because it was the United States, somehow he had to fit that in, that defeated the Nazis. And everybody knows that. And know that. And this, some of these really very, very well-informed people were putting on there that it said it's 80% of the Nazi military that died, they died on the Eastern Front. It wasn't the Western Front, you know. 80% of them that died on the Eastern Front. And then they added other parts in there as well. And then you say, and that doesn't mean that the United States and the Allies, you know, got rid of the other 20%, because they didn't. Because a lot of them surrendered. And they surrendered when Russia defeated the Nazis in Berlin, and Adolf Hitler committed suicide. And it was the Soviets that did that. It wasn't the United States. And Germany only capitulated because, and they capitulated to who? Oh, they capitulated to the Soviet army. They just surrendered to the Soviet army. They did not surrender to the United States. They surrendered to the Soviet army, and that is a fact. And even before that happened, they have those quotes from Churchill and Roosevelt and many, many, many other people that was saying that the Soviets really destroyed the Nazis big time. What was it that Churchill said? They ripped the guts out of the German war machine, and that was the Soviets. And of course, as you know, they lost a huge amount of people, and the United States lost a tiny fraction compared to the Soviets. And the United States was not even in the whole war for the entire time, only a short time, just like World War I. And if you look at World War I, you know, they had these tactics of, back then it was kind of really stupid. They said, attack the enemy at the strongest point. And of course their logic was you attack the enemy at the strongest point, and if you could defeat them, or if you could break through their lines at the strongest point, you could break through anywhere. You know, say, well, that makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. But then, of course, towards the end of the war, they started realizing, oh, you got to attack the enemy at the weakest point, because you want to break through. If you attack them at their strongest point, it's going to be a lot more difficult, and a lot of dead people, lots and lots of dead people. And that's the way they were doing it for the most time in the war. And then the United States, of course, entered only at the very end of World War I. And of course, they were losing huge amounts of troops. I mean, compared to, you know, the time they were in and all that. And I guess General Pershing, who was in charge of the American troops, he never realized this strategy. So he kept attacking the Germans at the strongest point. And of course, Americans take the credit for winning World War I as well, but that wasn't the case at all. It wasn't the French, it wasn't the British, it wasn't the Americans. What defeated the Germans in World War II was a revolution at home. They call it the stab in the back, because the German military was not defeated in World War I. It was not defeated. And you can even look that up. Look up stab in the back. And they call it a stab in the back because the politicians at home, they're the ones that ended the war in World War I. Germany was on French soil. They were on foreign soil at the end of World War I. So, in effect, you could say that the German military was, even though I wouldn't even go that far. It's not that they really massively defeated the Western militaries at that time, but they were on Western soil in France, and they had virtually, to be honest with you, they had already decimated a lot of the French and the British and the Americans in big time at that time. And they lost, of course, a lot. And it was like poisonous gas. It was a very bad time, trench warfare and all that. But anyway, there was a revolution in Germany at that time. People were kind of revolting, and that's why the government shut down World War I. And it's not because the German military was defeated, because guess what? It was not defeated in World War I. It was not defeated. That's plain and simple history. But of course, we're not supposed to know that sort of a thing, you know. But the very truth is, in World War II, the Soviet army did defeat the German Wehrmacht, you know, even if Trump doesn't want to admit it. And let's see, I have a quote somewhere. Where was this? I should have underlined it to make it find it a lot easier in these notes. Let's see. It said, oh gosh. Well, I wrote, before I even saw the quote, I was writing in there that it was, you know, I guess you could say that the United States, France, Great Britain, and all those countries, they defeated 5% of the Nazis, and Russia definitely defeated 80 to 85% of the Soviet military, as well as getting the Germans to capitulate. So the Lend-Lease program did help Russia somewhat, and Russia says that, but they still would have beaten the Nazis even without the Lend-Lease program. And as far as the military is concerned, the United States helped in a tiny little way in helping to defeat the Nazis at that time, and like so many people all agree, any real historian definitely will agree that it was Russia that did it. And of course, that's what I said, they're laughing. They were laughing. And a lot of people, you know, you got to take everything Donald Trump says with a grain of salt. Look at these hands, look at these beautiful hands. You know how Donald Trump is. Everything he has is better and greater and bigger than everybody else. And I remember, you know, talking privately with a lot of Germans even back then, and when I was in the army, and they were really, you know, like this, because the Americans, you know, I don't even know why, but we have this penchant for bragging and taking credit for things that we never did anyway. So it's like, I was even reading in history, I was, you know, certain things. One thing I remembered, because you know, you hear about the Pony Express in school, you know, that's what a great thing, the Pony Express. The Americans, they invented the Pony Express. So what they would do is take the mail and they would relay it from one fast riding horseman to another one, so that they can get the mail really quickly from one point to the other, and then you could send a letter or whatever the deal is, and instead of it taking 3 weeks, it would take 1 week or whatever. But then you find out that the Germans actually had that in the 1600s. They were doing that in the 1600s. And so America didn't invent that in whatever year it was, 1870 or something. I guess they're way, way, way behind. So, okay, here's that quote now. It says, Sputnik, they said, decades of misinformation, lies, and distorted educations, and a distorted education system have led people like Donald Trump to genuinely believe the Allies did it all. And that was their quote. Yeah, and I even remember hearing that, and I was thinking, oh, that's why. One thing I was hearing is, oh, the industrial might of the American economy. They put the industries on a wartime footing, and they started creating more bombs and all of this stuff than everybody else could. And that's one reason why I say that the Lend-Lease program was helpful. The United States was not fighting a war at the very beginning, and everybody else was. So they already had their industries, you know, going as best as they possibly could. And you know, Russia was putting out large amounts of T-34 tanks, which were the big heroes of the fight, you know, in World War II anyway, not the American tanks. But anyway, but it did help, because it, you know, you get extra ammunition and stuff, and like it's like getting a couple dozen factories. And it took Russia till when was it? Anyway, they made some agreement in 1972 that how much Russia is supposed to pay back, and they made a good deal. Donald Trump would not be lying, and I guess the British got 3 times more from the Lend-Lease than the Soviets did. And then you have to ask, well, if the Russians only got 1/3 as much as the British, so how was it so helpful to the Russians who in fact really did defeat the British. I mean the Nazis. So in other words, that kind of tells you right there something's weird. And the British did practically nothing. The only thing the British did was really, really good was they interpreted, or they found the Enigma code. So they were able to know what the Germans were doing before it was happening, and then they even did some things, let Germany destroy some ships and things, so it looked like they didn't have access and weren't intercepting all of their codes and knowing what's going on. But anyway, so that's the other story. I'm not really, I don't know all the little details about a lot of the stuff, but it's all interesting things anyway. So what else do we have here? Merz gave an ultimatum to Russia. Do as we order, or sanctions from hell, and we will send even more weapons to Ukraine. And then, Poland also was in on that one too. So anyway, that's just part of that meeting, what they had in that train, and these guys are all in a dream world. Maybe it was like a, some powdery stuff that they were actually indulging in, and made them. I don't know. Maybe that's what's keeping. I don't know anything about the effects of these drugs, but maybe that's why Zelensky is under some kind of a belief, that he's in fact winning when he's actually obviously losing. So, and maybe these other people are fueled with this stuff as well. I don't have any idea. Okay, now also the World Economic Forum is. I saw part of this a little while ago. Maybe the rest of you guys saw this too. But they're coming out with this brain control stuff, and it's actually quite scary, And you know that they try to do this stuff with the media, and with the lies and all that stuff, and it's been going on for quite some time. You can even go back to the turn of the last century, and I think that's when they put out "We tell you what the truth is." The media, not the truth. The truth is not the truth. We tell you the truth. We dictate the truth. And as you know, they can always create a new truth just by saying it over and over and over again. Goebbels, and anyway, they just keep repeating it enough and enough. And what Operation Mockingbird and all this stuff that's still going on in the United States, they have these lies coming out. Tucker Carlson, I think, was even showing it. He's showing station after station after station, and they even use the same words to just kind of get you to believe whatever that they're saying. It must be true, because all of these news stations and all of these reporters are saying the same thing. But it's kind of stupid when they even use the same identical words and the same phrases and stuff. Very weird. It's like it's put out. I don't know. You'd think that there'd be more reporters and things coming out and saying, yeah, well, we were told to say it exactly that way. But they don't. It's very weird. Anyway, but it's obvious. Okay, so this brain control thing, it's not just implants. You guys have been hearing about the implants. I think even Elon Musk is talking about like some implants to implant you with some certain type of knowledge and things like that. But the WEF, obviously, they don't want to give you any kind of a knowledge. They just want the control. So what it is here, it's not just an implant. They said they can do it with a tattoo. Well, however that works, I don't know. They can, microchips and into headphones, headphones, like the ones you listen to music, like that sort of stuff. Not only that, to jewelry. Just think about that. You put something in your earrings, put things in earrings, and maybe a lot of guys, maybe that's why they want guys to become gay and trans and all that, so wear earrings, and then they can put the mind control microchips. Hey, that's probably what's going to happen there. But even in your clothes, they can put it in your clothing, say in your collar. They can put it in the collars of things like that, and it's like, and the stuff that they do. And they said they've even been doing this. They have been doing this. They even admitted that a couple of years ago, and I was thinking, oh, that, wow. But this time they're giving some examples. This girl, young lady, I would say, Nita Farahani. She's the spokesperson for a lot of this stuff, and she was, in some of these, I don't know, maybe in these TED meetings and all this. She was even talking about the TED meetings and all this, how they can get these people together and put out, how they're going to control the world. Like Billy said, with, how he's going to. With this 15%, you guys that watch my other videos, you know what I mean about the 15%. I don't know, they don't like it. I think maybe a lot of these algorithms, the reason why my videos take all this time, like 12 hours to upload. It's because maybe a lot of the stuff I talk about is the stuff really slowing things down. I'm thinking. I thought it was a guy in a car. I didn't even know that. Probably thinking I'm filming it. But it's maybe the algorithms are slowing all of this stuff down because it's all taboo stuff. So anyway, what else here? But these chips, they make you think and believe things that are not even true at all. They can implant memories, and you would swear, like she was mentioning as an example, that you were in Disneyland, but you'd never been to Disneyland. And they can implant the memories. Makes you really wonder. It's something out of science fiction movies. Create fake memories, fake facts, and then she even said you can get people convicted. Can you imagine that? They can even put fake eyewitness testimonies into people saying that they saw you do this. Just think if they can get 20 people in there, 20 people up on the stand and they saw you doing this. I'll tell you what, you're going down, buddy. You're going down. 20 people, 20 witnesses, and there's no record of all these witnesses getting any kind of a money, maybe people with high convictions, for truth and justice, and they will swear that they saw you doing something. Wow. I'll tell you what, people, we have a hard time in front of us. Gosh, absolutely. You all have to move to Belarus, where they're probably never going to be doing that stuff over here. At least, not yet. Maybe if they are able to get rid of Lukashenko, he can't be there. He can't be there forever. And obviously, it's very difficult. And there's even some more I have to talk to you about that stuff here. The West is really trying to get most of these stand countries. So let's keep going here. So much stuff to put out. Otherwise, it's going to take another 12 hours. So even this is in the morning. I don't know did I say what time it was? Probably not. Anyway, it wasn't super early, but it doesn't matter. It's still going to probably take most all day to get this video uploaded. Okay. So let's see. They can also train your brain activity. It's like they can find out what you're thinking about. I don't know if that implies that they know the thoughts that you're having, but they can track your brain activity. Wow. Anyway, that's about all I have to say to that. Very frightening stuff. Also, I guess it's good news. It looks like the tariff war is over, and Donald Trump won. He didn't win. Donald Trump lost. But he's never going to admit that. In a certain way, he could have done this at the very beginning without all of this thing where people are losing huge sums of money in the stock market, going crazy. I tell you what, he could have just gone to China and got exactly what the result that came about after all of this. He could have had it without all the theatrics and threats and showing how powerful. I think he was hoping to get even much better. But what happened was the U.S. Because they lost, obviously, because the stocks. Lots of people lost hundreds of millions and millions, maybe even millions in stocks and things like that from a lot of this. Matter of fact, maybe you could even say that Elon Musk, he lost a lot from all of this. It's even possible from Tesla, because that's part of this stuff is what got people to go around and blowing up Teslas and things like that. So what else here? But what happened was the U.S. was really bleeding stocks and everything. So most duties now on Chinese things in the U.S. will be 30%. I don't know what they were before. And U.S. products, I guess, in China, most of them, not all, of course, none of this stuff means everything, but most apparently is going to be 10%. So, but the U.S. doesn't produce as much. China produces virtually everything. So, anyway, like I said, they could have done. I'll tell you what, that would have been agreed upon at the very beginning if Donald Trump wouldn't have said, "Look at how tough I am. Look what I'm going to do here." Okay, the EU is dumping millions into the stand countries. They're trying to put them into the EU orbit and take them away from Russia, obviously. So they put 81 million into Erasmus in Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Stand. So they put all these, 81 million into that. That's just one project. I guess that's also, most all of these have to do with the youth. And they do this, of course, and I tell you what, they did this in Belarus, and they continue to do this. This is what they do all over the place. This is all aimed at the youth. And I was even talking to you guys about what they were doing in Kazakhstan, and they have these cells in the United States. It's been around for a long time, and they even advertise on this, so much for freedom of press. That's why the freedom of the press is not such a great thing anyway. Freedom of speech in the press, because the United States, they can print as much money as they want. And maybe, I don't know about the EU, but most of this is coming from the EU, so I don't know if they have their own fiat fake money printing machines as well. So they just keep printing the money and pay huge amounts to all these people. You go to these things, like I said, in Kazakhstan, and it's still there in Kazakhstan. Obviously, it used to be here in Belarus at some time in the past. I would suspect it's all gone now. And they have these houses, I don't know, somebody maybe rents some big apartment, maybe 150 square meters or whatever, and you have televisions and you play movies, you get popcorn, and and there's English classes teaching you English. They even teach you how to, believe it or not, obviously, how to make an effective protest, making signs, and I don't know, you never know, maybe they're making bombs and explosives. But anyway, teaching people how to do all these color revolutions and all that sort of a thing. They probably don't have any bombs and guns there, but they're trying to do it in a different way to overthrow the governments and fake information and all that sort of thing. So that was just one of the projects. 81 million into that one, and then there's 105 million going directly into Tajikistan education. This is from the EU again, by the way, and I guess it was listed in dollars. 105 million directly into Tajikistan education system, of course, all the youth again. 2.2 million into Kazakhstan's constitutional courts, not the youth. So that's a different thing. They have 11 million going into Darya, D-A-R-Y-A, capital letters. It's also a youth organization. And 13.3 billion into the transport infrastructure corridors for, what is it? I guess that was maybe some of the, which country? Anyway, and a lot of this is for access to minerals such as lithium and other rare earths, even, believe it or not. And I think a lot of this stuff has been really getting vamped up since Donald Trump said he wants all that stuff. So now the EU is really going after this because they were counting on getting all the rare earths from Ukraine. That was one of the whole reasons for the defeat of Russia, so that they could go in there and start getting all the rare earths, the lithium, for Germany's BMWs and their electric car system and all that, to get green energy and all that sort of a deal. And then, of course, the Zaporozhye power plant, the nuclear energy, the electricity geared out of that, and on and on. I've talked about that stuff before. But it also had oil and gas. They have some oil and gas in those countries. And there's, of course, as you know, there's pipelines that are going through from those countries to the EU as well. And that was one of the things that Zelensky was blowing up, was some of these transfer stations and all that, which was not Russian gas. It was not Russian gas, not Russian oil. It was the oil from these places going into Europe. And Zelensky was sending drones and blowing up those places. And Russia was even announcing that, belonging to Exxon and all of this stuff for the most part. So a lot of things we don't know about. And so they're there for that as well. And but they said the whole thing, let's see, the EU they've indicated that they want these stands, all these stand countries, to cut ties with Russia and to join in on sanctions against Russia. And part of the payment is, of course, that they will be buying all of these minerals, and oil and all that kind of stuff like that. And of course, what is it? Scott Ritter, he came out and he was slamming Trump. He was really slamming Trump. He said he didn't like Trump, but for the most part in the past months, he's been saying positive things about Trump, but it wasn't positive on this time. He was really slamming on Trump. Maybe he had a bad dream. I don't know. You see, there's so much that's not to like about Trump, and I think he's fooling people and all that. And maybe Scott Ritter, maybe that's why he's ticked off about it as well. And he was talking a lot about Marco Rubio, and he says probably because a lot of these donations and from these They just happen to be Jewish, by the way, and they happen to be tied to Israel. These organizations that gave huge amounts of money to Donald Trump. Huh? Is there some dots to connect here? But anyway, so he can't get rid of Rubio. And as you guys know, probably, and this I've known this for a long, long time, because they've even had tapes, you know, that these people have been taping certain things, like and even who was it? Jesse Ventura was talking about it. That these offices are bought, and there's even recorded meetings where there's people deciding on who Trump is going to have in certain positions. Oh, well, we should put so and so in there. And you heard of with Victoria Nuland and the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, deciding on who is going to be in the government and who's going to be in charge in Ukraine. Well, I think we'll have this guy. And then you put Yatsenyuk in there. That was a lot of the big talk. Yatsenyuk at that time was just kind of a poor guy. And of course, he retired as a billionaire in the United States afterwards. I wonder how that happened, you know? On getting a, what is it, $2,000 salary every month, which is high in Ukraine especially at that time. But then somehow he ended up with well over $1 billion in a big housing, a big complex where he lives, and a swimming pool and all that. Yatsenyuk. Anyway, so Scott Ritter, he was saying he can't fire Rubio, and he was calling Rubio is a traitor. But that was just about that. So, you'd have to maybe look up Scott Ritter and watch his video to find out about that. So what else do we have? I already talked a lot about this Coke scandal. And, to me, the most telling thing is that spoon that old Mertz was hiding. And you guys probably all saw that video, so you know what I'm talking about. It was definitely a metallic one. I saw one video, showed up, the one on Alex Jones, showed up close. It was almost definitely positive that was a metallic spoon. It was no stir stick. So I don't know if maybe they can't fake that with the deep fake stuff as easy as they did maybe with the napkin, which maybe was a bag. And anyway, so big unrest in Tripoli, if you guys have been hearing that. Huge, killings all over this stuff. Another place that the United States and Great Britain, I might add, had also destabilized and caused. And there was also something put out with lots of witnesses and even people making confessions. And apparently it was on the BBC of the UK, and in the Iraq war and in Afghanistan, doing atrocities. They called it atrocities. Oh, that guy looks like he's a recruiter, a Ukrainian recruiter. What if he's out for me? Anyway, really interested in me. But a lot of these atrocities, I was even mentioning like in the past days about this rape of this Christian girl in Syria was really terrible. They had just a photo of it afterwards of this young, and they showed a photo of who she really looks like. I don't know. They didn't show her face or nothing like that when she was already dead, but it was like, and these were people from the UK for the most part doing it. They were UK special forces, and it was a Christian girl, of course, and they raped her to death. They all had their way with her, whatever the deal is. And then I think they started using, I don't know, baseball bats, whatever the heck they used to kill her. And dead men tell no tales. And more nice news, huh? And it's sad when you see like a really beautiful girl and young, and they did that stuff. And of course, like I said, I don't know if they mentioned a lot of the rapes and things like that in this BBC thing, but I'm just shocked at the BBC, which is not a reputable organization any more than Reuters is. So why would they even put this stuff out? Maybe we'll find out. I don't know. So I guess there was hundreds of testimonies, lots of atrocities. I told you guys about the American guy. I don't know if he wanted some sex with some, was it in Iraq or was it, anyway, yeah, I think it was in Iraq. And then he left the post with a jerry can. We call them jerry cans full of gasoline. And I don't know if he killed and then gassed them, poured gas on them and burned them all, or if maybe he tied them up. But it's just like what was talking about this thing on the BBC, what they would do, and they would kill children and things, but they would tie up families and innocent people and all that, handcuff them, all that, and they would kill them, and then they would, cut the, you know, like maybe wire ties, they cut it or uncuff them, and then put some kind of a weapons or something by them, and then take photos to say, yeah, they were attacking us and they were firing on us first and all that. Yeah, like a 5-year-old kid and all that. So anyway, yes, and I guess it was the SAS, Special Arm, whatever, SAS, and the SBS, which is Special Boat Services, so that were involved in a lot of these executions and all that. Yeah. So the last thing I have to put out, let's see, how long is this already? Oh, it's over an hour. Oh, that means that maybe a 12-hour wait before it gets uploaded, probably, or longer, depending on. They do that to me a lot, YouTube. They will stop it. You know, they stop the upload at some point in time. Sometimes it starts again, and sometimes it really doesn't. I wait like maybe half an hour, and it never starts, you know, so it still stays in the same place. So I got to stop it, delete it, and then start all over again. But yesterday, that was the real, you know, the real knuller, when they got, you know, like 99.9% uploaded, and then they stopped it. Jeez. Thanks a lot, YouTube. But the last story, let's get on to that, is Bill Gates. He was in Singapore, and this was just, I don't know, a couple of days ago. He was sun is behind me. He was in Singapore, and a couple of days after he left Singapore, it's kind of strange. It's like magic or something. Just a coincidence. Just a coincidence. Singapore came up with mandatory vaccinations. So when the government tells you to get vaccinated, you must get vaccinated, or else maybe I think you go to prison, something like that. So very bad stuff. So Billy, I guess he's gearing up for the next one. He said there's going to be another one, as you all know. Another one. Yeah. There's going to be another pandemic. I think Fauci even said that too, but I don't know. Billy's got way too much money and influence, but they're still working. You know, Fauci, I don't know how many millions he's got. He definitely made millions on this thing as well. So maybe he's a little bit more sensible, and he realizes, oh, he's fine with, I don't know, whatever, 2 million, 5 million, whatever, how many millions he has. So it's enough for him and his kids to live on for the rest of their lives. So he doesn't need any more than that. And but Billy, he's never satisfied, you know. So it's just like Ukraine, and a lot of these higher officials in Ukraine, they, you know, everything is still not enough. So anyway, he's gearing up for the next one. So we all have to be ready. Who knows when that's going to come about? You were thinking maybe I was thinking even indications are going to do it again to Trump, but you never know. Trump's got a couple more years to go. So, and you know, he's got some plans as well. And Billy Gates, he paid a visit to Donald Trump, and all this, you know, Billy, he has his own organizations and things going on, his dastardly stuff. So I don't know. I used to maybe not be able to say stuff about Billy Gates on YouTube, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe this video won't get uploaded. If it does, you know, that's fantastic. Anyway, we'll find out. Anyway, everybody, thanks for joining me. Don't forget any comments. Make sure you push that like button, even if they don't accept it, which a lot of people have told me as well. And I'll just mention that again too on a lot of this, because I've heard this and I've even witnessed it myself. You know, you get some views on YouTube, say, you know, and it's normally, I think, right around 50 or something like that. I don't know. And then you look the next time and you got less views than before. So some people, they decided to unview. So who is that out there? Which one of you are unviewing the videos? Anyway, so like I said, other people have talked. I don't know to what extent. Lots of games going on. That's all I have to say. But anyway, again, you know, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. This will probably take all day, so there probably won't be another one today. So until then, bye-bye.